so it's interesting to see that a lot of power is really going to be focused in the White House, from what we understand, because it's going to be difficult in the administrations, because they're going to be empty for a while. We're going to find the right guys to talk to, and a lot of complex issues are at hand, especially on the economic field. We're going to start with that. We had tariffs. We have deregulation, which matters a lot to Europeans. And we have fiscal policy. And I'd like to know what you think of what it means for us and how we can deal. Maybe, as Hiko said, maybe we should collaborate. You know, well, Europeans were used to collaborate, but right now there's a little incentive. Maybe you could tell us about it. Like, everybody wants to go his own way with Trump because he's afraid, especially, I mean, in Germany is a good case for that, case in point, if and how to deal with Trump. But for instance, deregulation is going to change the innovation landscape in America. They're going to open the gates. Everybody's going to be able to do whatever he wants to try to innovate, and that can attract our companies who are going to find a freer field over there. So that's a problem that we have to think about, Europeans, and probably people in Asia too. And there's also a lot of deterrence with tariffs, because he wants to bring investments in America from us also. So it really poses a question of competitivity for our firms in Europe and everywhere else in the world. I mean, I'm not only talking about Europeans. So what do you think, what is the good attitude here? I mean, Germany is a good case in point, because, I mean, tariffs is really a real problem for you guys if it comes up, because he hasn't mentioned tariffs towards us now. For now, it's only Canada, Mexico, China, but it will come up. So how do you feel about this? Do you think we have to try to work together? Do you think the temptation of doing it alone is too strong because the stakes are so high?
Yeah, so since I'm the German,
yeah.
So I try to share some thoughts that I have in this regard with regard to trade and tariffs. If you just jump back in history, some years, it was under the Obama administration, we failed to successfully negotiate Transatlantic Trade and Investment Partnership, TTIP. Yeah. What a pity, what a lost option. It was a historic mistake to make, that we could not agree with our closest partner in the world on these issues. But that's time gone by. What is in place is the Trade and Technology Council, which is working somehow across the Atlantic, but it's not an FDA. But a free trade agreement across the Atlantic is, I think, only if you are naive or if you are a dreamer. I think the times for the foreseeable future of an FDA across the Atlantic is over. Under the Joe Biden administration, they was friendly and everything, but they are not big friends of free trade, and the next Donald Trump administration certainly neither. So, from experience, I understand and acknowledge that there will be a lot of differences from Trump 1 to Trump 2, certainly. I mean, it goes without saying. But some of the things of the experience, will be helpful to understand and to cooperate somehow, if you so will, with the incoming Trump administration. And that is, Donald Trump said, his most favorite word, if he looks up a dictionary, is tariffs, right? You take this guy by his very own words. It's not new to us. He proved this during his first administration. And by the way, the incumbent Joe Biden administration did not do better. Mm-hmm. They were even more protectionist than the Donald Trump 1 administration was. They let everything in place. They put on top of this the Inflation Reduction Act. And by the way, I never talked to anyone, to any German business people who did not love IRA, who had investments already in the United States or expanded this, because they get a lot of subsidies and everything. So it's good for them. They love it. And Donald Trump, if he follows his own agenda, will add up on that. He will, I guess, leave something like IRA in place with a different context. But I very certainly expect him to impose 10 or even 20% of tariffs on goods being imported from us, being Europe, And Germany, as one of the largest export nations, we don't have much, anything else than our goods and services that we export. So this will hit us hard potentially. So what to do about this? I pick up something that has been mentioned here with regard to the Republican Party and having access, and what Jay was saying, having access to Donald Trump himself or to his inner circle, whoever that is, not only cabinet ranking members. But over the years, we have, I think, not invested enough time and energy actually to establish these communication lines. I'm from a conservative party, from the CDU. So our partner party is a Republican Party on the other side of the Atlantic. It has changed over time. We are organized internationally in the IDU, in the International Democracy Union. But it's difficult to communicate, but we need to invest more in these communication lines. And then one last thing that I really wanted to mention is in Europe, we need to finally, eventually understand that we need to prepare, not only because Donald Trump will serve a second term in the Oval Office, even beyond Donald Trump. What I'm talking about is NATO, defense, security, and it's with regard to trade and tariffs. So it's good to build up something like a core Europe of the form of the Weimar Triangle. You have Germany, France, and Poland. Add to that the UK and Italy, so the influential economies on the so-called old continent in Europe, and form a strong group and put in place a toolkit, a toolbox of also, that you have something as a response in if you sit down at a negotiation table with Donald Trump himself or with his team, with his administration, that the Europeans can say, well, we are strong. We are big economies. We are your partner, but don't fool us. We are also sent out as a signal of strength. I hope, and I see signs happening over the last several weeks and months in Europe that this is being established. Our own party chairman, Friedrich Merz, who's likely to be the next German chancellor, is heavily investing a lot of time in this to building up this core Europe. We have some, that Donald Trump who understands only the language of strength, that he shows some respect, and it's, do business with him amongst partners, but on equal footing.
It's interesting to see that the EU is supposed, to have a voice by itself with Ursula von der Leyen and be able to deal with the Trump administration too. But you think it's better if a small group of countries go about it?
Yeah. Otherwise, look, we are 27 member countries. Yeah, which is not. It's an idea from the early 1990s. This core Europe that some, who want to go ahead, who align the policies and go ahead, and over time, those who want to follow, we prepare the path, make political decisions. Otherwise, it's so difficult with smaller countries with only, 2 million or so population, and then you have Germany with 82 million, and completely differently structured economies in Europe. We are one club. We share all the values together. But I think it's worthwhile thinking about and acting actually to build this core group and step ahead, because otherwise I think we will lose time and we will lose the competitive advantage.
So that's on the state level. Jay, I'd be curious, you deal a lot with corporations and you help them navigate geopolitics in the world. What do you tell your customers today, or the corporations you talk to in addressing, especially the foreign ones, the one from outside the United States?
Well, maybe I can reframe that question and say what I'm hearing. I'm hearing excitement on one hand and real concern on another hand. On the excitement side of the ledger, there is a real sense of possibility with the policies that President Trump will put in place regarding juicing the economy. What do I mean by juicing the economy? Well, we've already seen a 6% uptick in the market since the election, and he is projecting that he wants to maintain this bull run that we've had in the US market since October 2022. And that will be done through, as was mentioned, deregulation, but specifically financial sector deregulation. That will be done through an extension of the tax reforms that were put in place in 2017, which are due to be to be either extended or will sunset at the end of next year. That will be through support of critical industries, including those around AI. That will be around support through crypto. Now, he has a lot of supporters in the crypto industry, and he's come out and said, this is going to be an area of focus for us in the economy. So what he wants to do is create some running room, roughly 12 months at least running room, whereby he can make some of these tariff adjustments that will allow him to negotiate on the tariff side and still have the economy pushing ahead. Of course, the corporate leaders I'm talking to are most concerned about the tariffs because of the inflationary pressure, the pressure on cost for them in terms of inputs, but also for the consumer, the end consumer. They're also very concerned about the immigration policy decisions that President Trump has said he wants to do in terms of deporting those that are illegally present in the United States. If you look at major areas of growth in the past in the United States economy, construction, agriculture, healthcare, and politically important sectors like elder care, child care, travel and tourism, these are all heavily exposed to labor constraints. And so there's going to be also pressure from corporate leaders to make some compromises on the immigration topic and potentially to look at immigration in a much broader sense. Now, that's a third rail in US politics when there is a divided government. But with government consolidated in the hands of one political party, I think there's actually an opportunity to think about immigration much more broadly than just deporting those that are illegally present. Finally, I'll say this DOGE effort, it's not a stunt.
DOGE is to cut regulation, right?
The so-called Department of Government Efficiency, which is being led by Vivek and Elon. It's not a stunt. There's actually a real sense that the Republican Party has a responsibility, even a requirement, to make government more efficient. This has been a mantra for the Republican Party for a long time. And of course, government spending increased tremendously under the first Trump administration. So Republicans are not immune from fiscal problems of their own making. But the idea of creating more government efficiency and accountability is very politically popular, not only within the party, but more broadly for the United States polity as a whole. Now, how that will be done, whether it's going to be done in a politically expedient way, one can expect that. But there is a fiscal element to this as well. Elon Musk has come out and said he's going to eliminate $2 trillion of government spending. Now, that's impossible. We all know in this room, we I think can agree that's impossible because there isn't that amount of non-discretionary government, discretionary government spending that can be cut. But there are areas within the budget that can be addressed, that can be pared down, which will again have a positive effect on growth, positive effect on the overall inflation, and will alleviate some of the tension that is going to build up with the Fed. I mean, it's a really good signal that Jerome Powell was asked to stay on, because that will allow for policy continuity and will allow for continued independence of the Fed. But we are potentially on a collision course after roughly 12 months. If we see the economy continue to grow, if we see the tariffs being enacted at a certain rate, for inflation to be persistent and for that to maintain itself as a political issue going into the midterm elections. And so I think that is an area of concern as well.
You wanted to add something, right?
Just a short.
Yes.
So I think that I've attended many conferences like this.
Yes.
And a typical discussion about Trump have been to share the concern or in grievances, and then discuss about how to mitigate or minimize the risk. So I think that is an important discussion, but the more effective discussion could be, again, is to think about how to take advantage of his DNA. His DNA is unpredictability and the disruptivity. And the world is,
It's
in
kind
the
of
world
hard.
of disruptive, in a disruptive world, sometimes disruptive leadership can shake the adversaries or can shake the system and create, I'm not supporting it, but Trump is elected, so we should try to take advantage of that. For example, on the issue of North Korea or China or whatever. Specifically, maybe, if we just start discussing about it, we run out of time. So
But I agree with you. There's a feeling that things are going to be shaken,
yeah,
and a lot of people are just watching to see where the fruits are going to fall and what are the opportunities to size. I mean, really, they're ready. And you said there were excitement, and I agree with that because some people are saying, okay, the rules are going to change, and we might get Yasseen.
Oh, there's one issue that actually concerns me quite a bit. I think the most consequential decision that Trump will take will be to withdraw from anything that has to do with climate. And this is an issue that is of concern to this country.
Because that's a multilateral issue, and it's not his strong point.
But the United States does have an effect. And doing things without them, without access to their technology is going to be difficult, especially the federal government. The saving grace is that the United States is a huge country with a huge private sector. And what I would tell people is that if you look at what happened in 2016, Trump did withdraw from the Paris Agreement. But in spite of that, overall, US emissions went down. And so if countries like ours can take advantage of what's available in the United States in terms of the private sector, in terms of actually states that are really interested in this issue, without having to resort to the federal government, I think we'd manage to salvage something out of this.